Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. This is the weekly security policies meeting. It's June 17th. Looks like we have a fairly light agenda. Please do add items if you have something in mind that we haven't put on there yet. But yeah, first we have under the demo section, Artur, you have something to share.
Hi everyone. As I mentioned last time, I wanted to share the progress more often. It has not been merged yet, so I can show you on my computer locally. Last time I showed you branch patterns. Now I think I can show you tokens. Yeah, so now we can go to policy exception selector, and there is a new option available, personal access tokens. Now we see the drop down with I'm on the group level now, so it's all access tokens from the group level. Yeah, and there is also a list of three most recently created, and it's this list is basically mirroring this list. And if I select a couple of tokens and one of them is most recently selected, it will be selected as well. Don't get confused. The names are same, but it's different tokens. They have different rules. I was just testing some duplications. Yeah, so as you can also select it from here. Yeah, and I can add exception. Now I have it in bypass options. Well, the thing is, in our epic, I saw that we wanted to use the name in YAML. But the problem with the name, as you have seen, it's not unique. Token with the same name can have different rules applied to what this token can grant. So for now, I've decided to go with IDs. Yeah, if we decide to change it, we can talk about it. But now, as you can see, we have a list of personal access tokens selected, and we can go and it will be selected. Like I showed you, same UX flow with branch patterns. And now this list is multiple. We can also test add another exception type like branch patterns and add it. Now we have this list of two items. And if I click here, I'll immediately go back to editing branch patterns. And if I click on exceptions for tokens, I'll see another model state. Yeah. I have also it was
Maybe
not specified. Yeah,
maybe before you
please go
move
ahead.
on, Artur, I had a thought on this. I think it's a great point with the IDs for the tokens. I think we do need to keep track of like the actual unique identifiers. So even when you're adding a token here, I think it might be useful to be able to make sure you're selecting the right one, if there are duplicates. So if you have recently created token, I could anticipate having like kind of a lighter shaded
Yeah,
identifier next to it, and also in the search area. Um, so that could be useful. And the other thought, one thing that's a little bit different than what I was expecting. I mean, I think you you approach it the right way, but I'm imagining a use case, and I was kind of talking with Sashi about this. I'm imagining a use case where um, the policy manager may not have access to like a top level group. Let's say they're GitLab.com, and the top level group in GitLab.com would be kind of like that's your admin layer, and so maybe that's restricted access, limited
yeah,
access. But there could be coordination to create um, group access tokens that are used for an automation across all the projects. That could have happened. It's already
yeah,
there today, and we haven't added this feature yet. But when the policy is created, they identify that this automation is being blocked by the policy, um, and they want to allow an exception for that particular automation. So there could be coordination while the policy manager does not have access to create the group access tokens or query them directly. They may need to input them. They may need a way to add a group access
yeah.
token to the list. So I think we'll have to think about how we want to achieve that. But I just wanted to note that's maybe more of a complex use case, but very much anticipate there will be some scenarios like that.
Well, there is an option still to use names, but for example, if I got you right, what you mean, we can still use names, but if it's in the case when user has all the rights, and for example, if user add name token, and we will have two tokens with a name token. Yeah, sorry,
I might I
using
might
name
be
token.
I might be throwing you off. So those are
Yeah.
two different feedback items.
Ah, okay, okay,
I think
okay.
on point one, 100%, we should have the identifier present, so that the user can differentiate and make sure that they're adding the right exception.
Yep.
So you might have the name and an identifier, but we'll put that aside. And then the second part is like right now you're showing because the user has that as at the group
Oh yeah.
level because of their permissions, you're able to list the tokens at the group level. And if they're but in theory, what you're suggesting is that the subgroup they would not be able to see group access tokens, or maybe that's not the best way to put it. Let's say they're at the project level, they would not be able to see the list of group access tokens. So there may be a scenario where exceptions need to be added, for a given access token that they do not have the ability to create, edit, or delete, but they may coordinate to supply that. So I'm imagining if you go and drop down select token exceptions just as one potential workflow to go and search, maybe there's a way to add, um, a add by identifier.
Hmm.
If someone gave you an identifier that you want to add, you could just supply that identifier directly, and the policy should still take that into account when enforcing.
Okay, so I got you right. I'm a user who has no access to tokens, and well, I either I cannot open this UI state with token selectors, or the list will be empty because it won't come from backend because I don't have the rights to see it. Correct? So, and what you want is somebody. I have no rights, but somebody send me identifier, so I go to YAML mode, paste it in, and I can steal, and now I can see this token selected in rule mode, or
I think you got
even
it.
though I don't have any rights to see it. Is it what you mean?
Yes, I think you've got it from the back end. That could make sense just to add it in YAML, but from the front end, there could be a step, an option. So if you were to drop down, select token exceptions, you could do that right now on your demo.
Yeah,
Which
but I
you
have access to it. I'm the user.
well,
Yeah.
no, yeah, no, but like if imagine you open that drop down
Okay. You wanna have a UI to just add it by identifier, and you add just identifier,
as an option.
and yeah, as an option, and it will be added through rule mode, but through another flow, not the drop down selection. But okay, I got it.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, we don't have that flow in design, but yeah, sure, we can think about it, how we can add this.
Yeah, and
yeah.
have we thought about like security implications of that? That you, as policy owner, you could create a policy and allow certain tokens to bypass policy, and you don't have access to those tokens. I'm just thinking if there is a risk, security risk, of having something like that, and I also think about validation. For example, in this case, we need to be able to validate if given token is coming either from I believe in this particular case, we're going to list the group access tokens. And when you create policy on project level, then you can add on the project access token, right? So I'm just thinking if we're gonna just allow users to provide ID, uh, if that might have potential impact on the security of policies itself, because
Well,
yeah, yeah, go
the
ahead.
policy manager is creating the guardrail. So if the one creating the guardrail is poking a hole through it. I think that it's the intended use of the product. Like
Got it.
um so applying a policy that adds restrictions in the code review process, for example, it impacts security positively. And then we're giving them an option to more granularly configure the
Got
policies.
it.
So I'm thinking of a scenario too of like, this group access token could be created for an automation used in all the projects, and they're giving that access to developers, say product, like team leads, development team leads, to set up this automation using that access token. So that could be like a shared access token that they're,
Got
storing
it.
on LastPass. Like you somehow these that would be the case where they're being used, or maybe you've set something up that cascades down and it's a token that's being reused in CI/CD or something like it, you're allowing that already to surface below the group level. Um, you're just not giving the ability to delete that token or
Yeah.
create a new token.
Yeah.
That's the breach. You wouldn't want to allow that.
Sure.
Um,
Okay. So once you
yeah,
provide the ID of the token and you don't have access actually to read tokens, then most probably in the policy drawer as well, we should not show the information about the token. So there'll be like no name, will be just ID, just to ensure that we'll not leak any information. Additionally, we need to add validation that when you supply the ID of the token, that token belongs to the group where the policy is created. And then we need to think about potential implications on CSP namespaces that Martin is working on with Dominic right now, just to ensure that you can actually provide. Can you actually provide the global token? I
instance
don't.
access token
Yeah.
from a
Just
self-managed standpoint.
okay. Lots of different and weird scenarios that we need to cover.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a
Um,
worst case with the timeline, um, there could be some things we could scope separately to say because I think this could cover a lot of use cases. I think maybe the biggest concern is self-managed because if you do have a central policy group today, create a top level group, this is the way that they're achieving that like kind of cross group linking, applying a policy globally. If you do that and then you can't have a token that's going to be accounted for in all of your top level groups, then you've immediately limited the reach of this feature in self-managed. So I think we'd have to solve for that somehow, but we can look for ways to limit it. Maybe it's
I
YAML
mean,
only or
we have a solution for that. It's called service accounts. So we could just
that's
say,
true.
okay,
Yeah.
so we could just say it's something different. Okay. Probably what we need to
uh,
clarify, so Arthur is collecting fetching the data from proper place is, are we going to load group level tokens from the top level group, or we should load from the hierarchy, so top level group and then all subgroups as we reach to the point where we actually going to create policy. I'm just thinking, what are groups what are those groups from which we should fetch those information about tokens?
I have one question.
Yeah.
So recently we had a new experiment to show the identifiers for every ID in the policy. So it's expected that if you have an ID, we needed to extend the experiment to add the identifier. And and we are talking about like leaking tokens. So in that case, something should not add. How is it gonna impact
Yeah.
this other feature?
Great question. The worst case here is we would probably leak name, but we don't want to do that. And I believe the way those annotations on the YAML are working is that when you, as the policy, as someone that modifies the policy, has access to certain groups or projects, then those IDs will be annotated with the name. If you will not have access, then I believe there will be like either no name or no information about it. So I
But
believe it will be smooth.
the developers have access to the security policy repository because I imagine if someone with access edit the policy is go to the repository and if someone else can see that later.
Yeah. That's the valid point. Is it like, is this a problem where we will show a name of the token? I mean, potentially someone could store some information in the token that they shouldn't. But name of the token, I'm not sure. Actually, is the information name of the token then replicated in the user? Because when you create a project level token or group access token, you're essentially creating a user that is a member of the project. And I believe the username is based on the token name. So
That's
perhaps
true.
that information is already public, let's say, like to all people that have access to a given project, they will already have access to the name of those tokens anyway.
Yeah, maybe we can add just an action here to just look into it. But I think that's where I'm leaning.
Yeah,
I think we can see
sounds
how
good.
the users are
I
created.
can spend some time just to draw um, like some diagram today.
So I think we
Okay.
cut you off, Artur, in the demo, and you were going to share a little bit more, had some more questions for us. So we'll let you pick it back up.
Um, no, actually, I'm almost done. Uh, the only thing I wanted to show you, it was not specified by design, but it's not a big deal. It doesn't influence the flow. It's just like alert message if something goes wrong while fetching. Um, it for now it's a very generic message. Just a placeholder that I wanted to ask our technical documentation reviewers to review it when the MR is ready. Yeah, but it's just the placement. I wasn't sure where to put it. For now, it's here. But Torian, if you have some suggestions, I will gladly update it to a better place. Yeah,
Okay,
that's
yeah.
it.
Thank you. I'm gonna take a screenshot and I'll just I'll reach out to like our content folks too, because I know that that's when we really get into the weeds of like how we're talking about errors and if there's anything specific we need to add, just to make sure they know why and what they need to do for the steps.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, man. Awesome.
Yeah, my
Thanks.
thought,
Yeah,
Artur, on that real quick is just if we know like what types of errors might be present, if we can make them specific, that might be a consideration. Because like
yeah,
you might
yeah, sure,
respond
sure.
differently if there for some reason like there's an access permission issue, or I don't know. I think during
Yeah,
testing we might have more specific errors. If we can surface those, that would be
yeah,
useful.
definitely. Um, I can include the specific error to the message as well.
Cool, thank you.
Well, that's it. Just wanted to keep you up to date. That,
Awesome. Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. Really appreciate the effort on it, and thanks for doing the demo today.
yeah, thank you. Appreciate all the feedback. Thank you.
Cool. Well, we have about 10 minutes. I wanted to spend a little more time on the policies V2 or improving centralized policy management because I tried to share a little bit last week and there just wasn't time enough to communicate much. So let me pull this up. And this is going to be a little bit progressive. We'll have more to share. We're going to work on a prototype, just like a design prototype, and we'll have more to share as we go. But I want to start high level just to refresh why we're wanting to work on this in the first place. We in the past had this whole epic, um, many of you will remember, called Hide the Security Policy Project and Automate Permissions. And Amelia did a great job on some designs here. We were ready to move forward with that. We started on some improvements that are going to help regardless. But what we decided is that as the business has been shifting a little bit away, I wouldn't say necessarily away from iteration, but the way that we're approaching iteration is changing. and we want to make sure that we're not requiring our customers to test changes for us. We want to make sure that everything is well packaged together. We've thought through all the scenarios before we get to a GA release, so we have more of these phases: experiment, beta, and GA. More opportunity for testing and validation before we put this in front of customers broadly. So with that in mind, while we liked a lot of what we were thinking in this epic, we wanted to look at it a little more holistically and make sure we're solving everything all at the same time, not in increments that might create a confusing user experience. So some of the things that you've probably noticed with policies is it can be a bit challenging, just even for customers sometimes to understand the mental model, especially from a self-managed standpoint, because security policy projects can be created at any level. There can only be one link. There's can be just many different security policy projects. When you navigate to a security policy project from the UI, there's kind of a disconnect. You're jumping into a repository, you're jumping back, and there's not really good navigation back and forth. Access and permissions get a bit muddled because the access and permissions are really tied to the security policy project, but then we have a UI and there's some level of permissioning there. We have this permission for linking, and we want to make this simple and straightforward in terms of how you manage policies, clear understanding of the access permissions. And with security policy projects, we talk about in this epic hiding security policy project. I think that the reframing of this here is we want to make it optional to be able to use security policy projects. It's a choice. It is an approach that, from a DevSecOps standpoint, leveraging Git to manage policy changes, having that full Git history, ability to roll back. There's a lot of benefit, but it is also adding a level of complexity for our customers. And when it comes to creating a policy like the vulnerability management policy, as an example, this is the auto resolve feature that we added for the vulnerability management policy. For a lot of our customers that are coming from the AppSec space, they might be using other tools that don't require them to have this level of technical aptitude in terms of managing code in YAML and learning YAML. So if new customers are coming on board with GitLab, this could be a lot more in the weeds than they're prepared for. It can challenge adoption. It's more of an advanced workflow. So yeah, we do have UI component here, but what we want to do is make it even simpler, because you still are required to have a security policy project and to have some understanding of that, to create merge requests, and to make changes. So those are a number of the improvements, and then we also have opportunity to just improve performance overall by looking at, for maybe lack of a better term, a little bit of a re-architecture. Refactor might be the best way to put it, but we want to change how some of the things work from the backend perspective for managing policies. So that's a lot of the high level. Is there anything, Alan, I missed from a pain point standpoint? Anything you would mention from the why?
I would mention probably that we're still discussing certain aspects of it, because initially we thought, okay, let's just move security policy project to organization level, and then just use policies as we're using them right now. And now the more we discuss it, we think that we could actually, as we already have remodel, we could just move things and build policies that to be database native, so they're staying in database. That means we need to probably add lots of features that already are added to security policies by default, like approving a policy or modifying it and so on. But we're thinking if we could make it like GitLab first citizen, that means we would be able to either add comments or reference policy and so on. So there are still ongoing discussions, and I believe that's why we're bringing that early, so we know how we will work on it. The work that Martin is currently doing with CSP is our step in the middle to get what we would like to achieve. And Martin is doing CSP namespace, which is you select one namespace, and that namespace is used to replicate all policies and compliance framework across your instance. Yeah, so the most important part is that we will change how policies are stored, but how they are applied and enforced will not be changed. So that's why we need to find a good way to actually break down this storing policies from applying policies. So we need to abstract it to be able to properly rebuild that part and use this as we called it, like policies v2, because there's a completely new way of storing policies. So yeah, it's just to sparkle some discussions. And yeah, obviously we created some designs using Claude, which are not really compliant with whatever we're doing at GitLab, but we're trying to get some vision. And at some point we will have a small demo used with Claude to actually be able to walk you through all those steps that we believe should be added as a part of the UI.
Yeah, it's definitely concept stuff early on. That way we have our ideas organized, and then we'll work on more formal design and validation with customers and so forth. But yeah, I know we only have a minute left, and the next meeting that we have is also on the pipeline execution policy. So if we want to hang out for just a few minutes, I can take any questions and share a little bit more. I think the one piece that I didn't really get back into is this option of using policy projects, security policy projects, or what I'm looking at from the customer standpoint is policies as code. So mirrors capabilities of other as code product offerings like an infrastructure as code, etc. But this is something that we can make optional, and I think largely one of the pain points we've seen is that sometimes customers get a little bit they somewhat conflate what we're offering and the ease that we provide for them to set up security policy projects as something that we own entirely from the product standpoint. I think that's something we can flip on its head a bit when it comes to like managing configuration, like rather than having an entire project and this potential for leaking information, we're kind of giving users the option to like store more than just configuration. But I think if we update how we manage this, we can make it optional to choose to store policies as code and store it in the repository that you prefer, and almost make that agnostic in a way. And then by doing so, you take ownership of securing that repository and how you set that up, manage it, and limit access and permissioning. So I think by doing so, we can have more control over the experience that we're offering and make sure it's secure and compliant, that we're only referencing configurations, that we're able to kind of limit what can be exposed and how that's consumed and used by projects. So I think we have a lot more control if we store this directly in the database, and rather leverage policy as code as a mechanism for like an interface to be able to call an API and GitLab and update those policies, and it would work as it in a lot of ways as it does today for those users, but with a little more of a controlled workflow that where they own the project and they send us data in a format that we require, so that it's not overly permissive. So I think there's a lot of possibility there. And I know we're getting in a little bit over time, but there's more I talk about here in terms of different roles and permissions, some attempt here at architecture that you all will be able to take and completely tear apart and improve. But as we go further along, we'll have spikes and we'll be working on a POC in Q3. So to kind of get started on this project. So I want to give you heads up on what we're planning, and ample opportunity to share thoughts, feedback, questions, and so forth. So I'll pause there, and happy to hear any thoughts you have. If you like it, do a thumbs up. If you don't like it, do a thumbs down. Okay. If you're anxious about it, thumbs up. Not anxious, thumbs down.
I am anxious about it.
Okay.
But because yeah, it'll be a journey, that's for sure. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted us to have offsite, because that's one of the projects that requires us to work together very closely on the early stage, in front of the whiteboard, so we can quickly get some progress done. While I'm still gonna work on the offsite idea, we still have time. But yeah, this is one of the rare occasions in GitLab where being async is not helpful.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think we can make sure to have some dedicated sessions. So if we want to replicate that, maybe we can do our own async offsite and make sure that we're putting some dedicated time and effort into working through these problems together. So
Yeah,
that could be an
I'm gonna
approach.
keep pushing anyway, so
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah, whatever works out. But just in terms of timelines and stuff, we know this is going to take some time and effort. So Q3 is the goal is to start with a POC, internal, not customer facing. We want to work towards more of like an experiment in Q4 and looking at Q1 data as kind of the kind of rough of next year, kind of rough timeline that we're thinking. And of course, we may uncover some things and that can change, but we want to kind of try to stay on track as much as we can with that rough time frame. But all that to say, we're not throwing this into one quarter and expecting we can do it all. It's definitely going to be a long running project because we know it's a significant change to how we do things. So, all right. Well, I know 4 minutes over. I'll leave it at that. If you do have questions or comments, let's share the epic there or opinions or ideas. Like I would encourage you to mention it because I think we could have a lot of people, a lot of the team involved in this in some way or another. So yeah, I think it's worthwhile to take a look at it in more detail. Cool. Anything else? Do you want me to stop the recording for any social anything else? I'll just hit stop.